This week's Saturday morning action cartoon review comes from Clarkson Lopez. Thank you for the request. And before I start my review, guys, listen up already. I have your request written down. I do read my comment section, and I have it all written down on a list, so be patient. But anyways, let's begin the review. Wow, can't believe it's already been 10 years since Spectacular Spider-Man aired. And it still pains me to this day that the series was so short-lived. But I'll get to that one later on in the review. Through the dark reign of mediocre to flat-out awful Spider-Man movies from 2007 to 2014, there was little in the way of good Spider-Man entertainment. The post-Civil War story, One More Day, literally crashed the economy. Look at the timeline. The Amazing Spider-Man movies were so bad that they had to reboot another Spider-Man franchise to keep Spidey afloat. But in 2008, there was a glimmer of hope. Spectacular Spider-Man was released in March of 2008, and pretty much came out around a time during the dying days of Kids WB, before being sold to 4Kids Entertainment, thus being rebranded as a TV for Kids. And by this point, I had already lost a lot of interest for Saturday morning cartoons, as it had already declined in quality for both the Kids WB and a block that I was never a fan of, 4Kids TV. I was already in that stage where I wanted to grow out of Saturday morning cartoons the older I got. However, the only show I tuned into Kids WB for was none other than the show I'm currently reviewing. The show was produced by Greg Weisman, who you may know has made great action cartoons like Gargoyles and Young Justice. And I swear, this guy has made some of the best action cartoons out there. Going into Spectacular Spider-Man for the first time, the animation for the show didn't appeal to me as I thought it looked too simple and reminded me a lot of Kim Possible's animation. However, when you watch the show, the animation really grows on you with how well written the show was. And in a way, the animation does work for a show like this, as it made it easy to animate fight scenes better, which made it for some awesome action. And it made Spider-Man's movements a lot more agile. And let me tell you, this is probably the most agile I've seen a Spider-Man in any cartoon. Spectacular Spider-Man tells better written stories than a large majority of TV shows and cartoons currently being broadcast. It being an animated series is just a way to make it inexpensive, with fights that are choreographed as well as anything in the Raimi films. The easy, simplistic art style lets the artist work on any easy template of the character designs and structure, while allowing them more time to work on the punchy stuff we love so much. The creator Greg Weisman is a big fan of Shakespeare, and you can tell from the structure of the series. It becomes blatantly, not in a bad way, inspired in the final arc of the series, as drama becomes the focus of it. The duology of the seasons implemented a 4-act structure, with every 4 to 3 episodes containing an overarching theme that relates to the course of the studies Peter and his friends are struggling to get through in high school. Weisman and company break it down even further by allowing episodes to take it in their own stories, so every episode becomes vital, a larger piece of the puzzle, especially when the series takes the identity of the Green Goblin. The episode in the arc of chemistry culminates in on the Halloween and concept of mask, and who these characters truly are. I wish most shows would go in this direction, as a full-length season isn't always able to sustain itself on a large number of episode requirements. What gave the deal thematics more weight is the dual focus on the life of Peter Parker as Spider-Man and his personal life outside of the suit. The friends and enemies he makes as Peter Parker expire his emotional strengths and weaknesses, while the friends and enemy he makes as Spidey impacts his physical core. It's a virtue that many Spider-Man interactions forget to focus on. Spider-Man 3 falls under the way heavy focus on Peter Parker's melodrama, and the Amazing Spider-Man movies forget who is beneath the mask, physically and literally. What makes Peter Parker continue to resonate with all people of all ages is his struggle as an up-and-coming superhero. While going through life as a teenager, he messes up a lot. He unintentionally cuts people out of his life. Some even turn against him as his Spider-Man persona. We see his initial quarrel with his initial group of friends and family, comprising of Gwen Stacy, Harry Osborn, Eddie Brock, Aunt May, as they were in his foundations prior to becoming a superhero. Peter begins growing more confident as the series progresses, and it causes a ripple effect with how people around him treat him. Peter can be an asshole once in a while, but the series does recognize this, and gives him consequences for his actions. He's remorseful for how he wrongs people or puts them to be in a position to be wrong. It doesn't try to posture him as an infallible wannabe James Dean. Weisman does understand the world of Spider-Man so great on the page that influences the character in a way that makes for a good adaptation. No shot-for-shot copy and paste bullshit. Spectacular Spider-Man sticks to the thematic conceit of Spider-Man, honoring the great webhead of the old, while updating them for a more contemporary feel, and even changing things to help the story Weisman wanted to tell. A favorite change of mine is the instance of Black Cat, who is marvelous here by the way, where a part of her past coincides with Peter Parker's history as Spider-Man. But nothing ridiculous like a genetic DNA made you Spider-Man. On the subject of women surrounding Spider-Man's life, they're not women in Spider-Man's life. They're women in this world where Spider-Man just swings around. The agency isn't a byproduct of their relation to Spider-Man. Gwen Stacy in particular finally gets to be more of a blonde bombshell magic pixie dream girl. Her they will, they won't romance is pulled straight out of the best romantic comedies, as they grow from friends to potentially something more. Liz is the popular cheerleader, grew from becoming the bratty popular cheerleader who can't stand nerdy Parker, to potentially having a crush on Peter Parker, and becoming a love interest for him after he ditched her during their tutoring. And last but not least we have is our favorite redhead, Mary Jane. And boy, she fucking rocks in this show. She's a lively, flirtatious girl who has no intentions of settling down anytime soon. Her friendship with Peter Parker, Gwen, and the rest of Midtown High feels natural, as she's a social butterfly not afraid to flutter her wings. Though the relationships are serious, the simple but memorable animation isn't a detriment to the movements when the series needs to buckle down on the emotional moments. The characters deal with a slightly varied of drug abuse, addiction, power, and responsibility. The animation is used to make these characters age appropriate, but not given the nature thematic intent, the outcomes have a resounding way to them. Peter and his friends look like they're in high school, so when a younger character may not start dressing up like a supervillain, you feel more empathy for them than the full-on criminal masterminds. There's a lot to say about this show, and I'll probably discuss the show until the day I die. By some grace of a higher power, maybe I'll be lucky enough to sit with Greg Weisman to know where the show would have gone had it not been cancelled in the middle of Marvel being bought by Disney. And this is where I bring up why the show was cancelled. I'm sure at least some of us know why the show was cancelled, but just in case there are people that don't know, after Season 2, Disney owned the rights to Spider-Man's TV show, while Sony owned the rights to Spectacular Spider-Man. Instead of playing it nice and splitting the two profits, they decided to let the show be cancelled, despite how well the show was doing in the ratings. Thus, it led Disney to rebooting Spectacular Spider-Man to... Ultimate Spider-Man. And after Ultimate Spider-Man ended, we have a show that nobody cares about in Marvel's Spider-Man. I mean, can't Disney and Sony work out some deal? It's very disappointing for me to be invested in the story of the show, so much for it to be canned on a cliffhanger in the end. Crappy shows like Ultimate Spider-Man and Marvel's Spider-Man can stay on the air, while great shows like these can be well written and short-lived in the end. It's very unfair for us fans to want long-lasting action shows we love, but are stuck with shows we don't want. We live in a corporate world, guys, and cartoons are a business at the end of the day, no matter how good they are. Maybe one day Disney and Sony could work something out. Spectacular Spider-Man isn't just the best TV version of the webhead, it's the best type of adaptation. One honoring past stories while changing elements that gave a positive input to the overall story. If Marvel Studios' version of the Web Swinger takes any inspiration from this version, we'll be good friends. Spectacular Spider-Man gets a 10 out of 10. This is Red Wolf signing out, and I'll see you next time. Peace.